a lot has happened. Here's for team leaders, and then I'll talk to agents, but team leaders, I want to share with you, based on the lawsuit, the settlement, what's coming out, what you need to do. And should you be freaking out? So the first thing is, you should be freaking out if one of these things applies to you. You should be freaking out if you haven't been teaching your agents well, if you haven't been coaching them like maybe you know you should have. If you've hired weak agents, you should be worried. If you've had your head in the sand, or if all your agents have been offering is basically a nice door opening service, then yeah, you should be worried. But you shouldn't freak out if you do the handful of things I'm talking about. And I want to walk you through this. I even took notes to write this down, right? Here's the reality. First off, there's a couple things to acknowledge. Most people are smart. Most of our clients we worked, like, they understood that, you know, that the sellers were offering the house at a certain price, that X amount was being paid. They understood that they were paying, quote unquote, more for the home because in an effort to help finance the commissions being paid on both sides, right? However many of those commissions were, right? Second off, right? So they already understood. The second thing is they've always had options, right? Buyers and sellers have always had options. We've always had for sale by owners. We've always had flat fee brokers. Now we're going to have flat fee brokers on the buyer side, but they've been out there in a lot of different ways anyway. Sellers have known that they could sell on their own, right? And yet they chose to work with agents because they see the value in what we bring to the table. Buyers have known that they could oftentimes, you know, go directly to a seller or whatever it is. And one of the reasons why they didn't do that is because they wanted representation. They were willing to pay for representation. They understand this is a huge deal, and most people that you and I actually want to work with understand the value of that, right? It's the same reason why most people don't want to go to court on their own, right? They don't want to buy or sell a home on their own because there's a lot at stake, a lot involved, and that's not what they do every single day, right? Here's the thing, buyers will know the same, and it's going to be okay, right? The third thing is, for some of us, the third thing is, you can thrive through this change, right? If you keep your head in the right place, you dramatically skill up and you get more effective and efficient with your time. So let me give you a break into a couple of those real quick, right? Especially if you're leading a team, you've got to get this, right? You've got to keep your head in the right place. You got to keep your team's head in the right place. There's going to be two places that a lot of people get into. They're going to get into resentment and resistance. Resentment and resistance. I shouldn't have to make this. I can't believe these laws are changing. I can't believe we have to disclose this. I can't believe we have to do blah, 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 whatever it is, right? Resistance and resentment will be a cancer that eats your team alive if you are not aware of this. If you don't get their heads in the right place, this is the resistance and resentment are going to be the enemy during this time. So as one of my good friends and coaches said, he said, you can either oppose this or you can compose. During this time, you can oppose, resist, or you can compose, which means I'm going to write my new chapter. I'm going to write what we do moving forward here. And I do not want to sound all butterflies and rainbows. This is not going to be easy. And yet that's part of the gift in this. That's exactly why I'm doing this video, right? Here's the second thing that you need to dive into with your people. So first thing is their mindset. Second is you should be nervous because your agents already weren't doing what you know you wish they would have been doing. Here's what I mean by this. In my personal opinion, had we had fantastic buyer agreements all the way through, this would have been different, right? Buyer agency agreements, whatever you call them in your city, your state, it's different everywhere. Yeah, I used them when I was in real estate and had my team do them. We would sit our buyers down and go like, here's the process, right? And we would explain to them, right, the fee that they were going to pay. And most of the times back in the day, right, the sellers would cover that fee, but we walked them through it. There was no like, hey, working with me is free. We disclosed all that right after that. I think if everyone would have been doing buyer agency agreements, we'd be in a different conversation right now, right? But here's the second thing. Now the fact that buyer agency agreements and doing these things up front is mandatory, that is a huge gift. It's a huge gift to you as a leader. It's a huge gift to agents because now they've got to do that work. They've got to be doing it. So here's what you got to teach them. You got to teach your agents a couple things. If I was a leader, here's a couple things I would be doing right off the bat. First off is you've got to write out your buyer process, right? Hey, when somebody calls, when you first interact with the buyer, here's what we do with them. And you've got to skill your agents up, meaning this. They've got to get great at getting that first appointment, right? Go back to ABC, right? Action, benefit, commitment. Hey, I saw that you called in that house. That's a fantastic home. We're going to go look at that thing. And then I'm going to spend a couple minutes, right? We'll get on Zoom or we're going to sit down. We're going to meet a title company, whatever it is. You're going to have to teach every single one of your agents to be able to, right, get a buyer to choose to work with them just like we did with listings, right? We do a listing appointment. Now you're going to be doing buyer appointments, and it's going to be just as hard. Here's the thing. Here's why my clients are reaching out to me so much right now, is because they know, especially you as leaders, you know that it takes oftentimes a year or two to raise up a great listing agent. Why is that different than a buyer's agent? Because a listing agent has got to be able to negotiate and advocate much better than most buyer's agents had to, right? A listing agent had to be able to sit there and go, right, they had to work on the price of the house, but they also had to go, here's why I'm worth how many apples I'm charging to do this with you, right? So your buyer's agents have got to get as good as listing agents, and they got to do it by next Thursday, right? I'm being dramatic, right? They got to do it right now, right? So you've got to be able to help them go, hey, when they get that first appointment, the first skill they got to have is getting a meeting with the buyers where they go, hey, we're going to sit down for a minute. I'm going to walk you through everything that's happening in the market. You're probably going to be more educated than most agents are about what's happening in our market at the end of our meeting. I'm going to walk you through this. We're going to, all the things you're going to do in that meeting. And at the end of that meeting, so they got to get good at, first off, getting people to commit to that meeting, which has been tough, right? I'm not saying it's an easy skill. The second thing is they got to get great at articulating their value in that appointment to get buyers to choose to sign the dotted line that, yes, I choose you as my agent. I'm going to pay you however many apples you think you're worth, right? And we're going to have an agreement. Part of that agreement is going to be, here's what I can expect from you, what I want to be able to expect from you. Here's what you can expect from me. They're going to be just as tough as listing presentations, if maybe not a little tougher, especially in the beginning, yet they're so needed. And there's going to be, you're going to get so much from doing this in quite frankly, the more professional way than we've been. We've been undervaluing and underselling ourselves for a very long time, right? When you choose to work with an attorney, you might have an initial, meeting with them, but then you choose to work with them. You say, I will pay you. You're my guy. You're my gal, whatever it is, right? You pay for every phone call. You pay for every email, right? Etc. It's a professional relationship. Many agents on the buyer side have been winging that relationship. It has not been a huge benefit to them or the consumer, right? Here's a couple of the big gifts. First off, a couple of the big things you can do, and I'm going to talk to the agents here in a second. So if you're an agent, stick around. But teams, here's what you've got to get great at. And this is what I'm helping most of my clients with. So if you want some help, let me know. I'd love to have this conversation. Getting better at empowering their agents and helping them stay motivated and engaged, and empowering them, especially in their mindset. Then their skills. Right? You got to have mindset, skill set, tool set. It's up to you to deliver, especially the tools, but they've got to get their mind and they've got to level up their skills. Right? You've got to get way better at being able to craft and implement your new systems and your new value proposition. And leaders, you better get really, really good at coaching your teams. You better get really, really good at coaching agents and teaching them how to be coaches. Right? It's exactly what I started doing the team leader coaches training I'm doing, is because I believe most leaders don't know how to coach their agents as well as they could, which is why I bring them in for 2 days. And we spend 2 days on how do you run your team meetings, how do you coach your agents, all of that. If you want to be part of that, let me know. We're doing it soon. But it's a powerful 2 days that teaches you how to be a better coach and how to empower them and move them forward. You got to get phenomenal at that. Agents, I want to talk to you for a second. Here's a couple things you got to get good at. First off, how many of you are excited that because you're going to have to clarify things up front, you're going to stop losing people to a random new home build, right? They call you on Monday, go, hey, just want to let you know we found a house. And you're like, I don't remember looking at houses this weekend, right? Or they found for sale by owner of the weekend, or they just went from somebody they met at an open house. You're not have to worry about that anymore because you're going to have signed agreements up front, which is going to be beautiful. Second thing is you're now going to be able to dictate how much you want to charge. Meaning in the past, the sellers or the listing side has had all the power. They go, hey, here's what we're offering as commission, right? It was in stone. We're offering 3 apples, 4 apples, 2 apples, however many apples, no apples, right? Now, that doesn't matter to you near as much, right? Now you're able to go, here's my value, right? Here's why I'm worth my value. Here's the ways you can pay it, right? We'll get into that later. Here's the ways you can pay, but you're gonna be able to set your own prices, which is gonna be beautiful. And the people that choose to pay those, that's awesome. They're your people. The ones that don't, that's okay. They're not your people, right? So you're going to be able to determine your value, your fee structure, etc. The third big opportunity is, and don't miss this one, this is a beautiful opportunity to talk to your database. If you're not making videos and calling your database and talking to people, you are missing out big time right now. Here's the fourth thing. The fourth thing is, this is a huge gift. The fact that this is going to be hard means most people aren't going to do it. You get that? The fact that this is hard, the fact that most buyers, primarily buyers agents, have not learned the skills that a great listing agent has learned means that there's a lot of them that are going to struggle. A lot of them, and I wish everyone would succeed. I think there's enough business for all of us. Yet there's a lot of people that are going to resent and resist. They're not going to scale up. So for those of you that are willing to lean into the hard, this is a huge opportunity because most people won't do it, right? Here's what we know. Those that are going to learn how to negotiate, those that are going to learn how to share their value more, those are the ones that are going to win and be able to articulate that, right? I'll give you one of my favorite scripts I used to use with for sale by owners, and this is amazing. So write this down. You'll end up using versions of this with buyers, right? I would go to for sale by owner, and I would say, the reality is there's 5 different places I'm going to fight for your money during the transaction. One of the reasons why you usually net more working with me than you do selling it on your own is because I fight for your money all the way through the transaction. Here's 5 ways, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, that I would fight for your money. The first thing is in the initial offer, right? Now, the initial offer is only 20% of what I do. I know that seems crazy, right? I do all of this work to help you find a home. I just want you to realize that that's only 20 to 30% of what I actually do. The next 20, 30% is negotiating all the way through that offer, right? Then another 20, 30% of what I do is negotiating when it gets to repairs, right? Another 10, 20% is the appraisal. Another 10, 20% is actually getting to the closing table. So Mr. and Mrs. Seller, you can see how where I'm fighting for your money at these 5 different places all the way through a transaction, which is just one of the ways that by working with me, you're going to be able to net more money at the end of the table. And you did want to net more money, correct? Right? You're going to be able to have verbiage and language like that to help your buyers understand that while working with you, they're actually able to get a better deal in the house. They're actually able to be more protected, right? Yet you've got to get phenomenal at having that conversation. I mean, from my vantage point, I think it's somewhat of an easy conversation because I see what you do. I see the hours you work. I see the time you put in. I see the negotiation. I see where you fight for the money. I see all that. Yet it's your job to educate the average consumer of that because they don't see it. The average consumer doesn't see and appreciate what we do on a day-to-day basis as agents, and that's our fault. It's our fault because most of what we show is just opening doors, which we know is a very, very small percentage of what we actually do. So here's what the work I think you've got to do. Some of the big work. First off is, you got to get better at communicating your value. You got to get better at negotiating for it up front, right? You also got to get more effective and efficient. It's going to take, you're going to work 3 or 4 times more than you have in the past, right? Going back and forth, negotiating things up front, right? Calling the other agent, seeing if they're willing to pay part of the fees, all that kind of stuff, right? Going with a different loan program that allows us to wrap in the fees, things like that. You're going to have to work more, so you better get more effective and efficient, which is what I love helping my clients do. Yet this is an amazing opportunity for those of you that grow, adapt, and level up your skills in a dramatic way. So all that said, I love you. I see how hard you're working. Leaders, if you want to get better at rolling out your buyer process and implementing that, let's have a conversation, right? If you want to get better at motivating and inspiring your team, let's have a conversation for what that looks like. I'll give you the mindset tool set. And then agents, man, don't try to do this on your own. You're going to miss out on too much opportunity, too much business by trying to do this on your own. People ask me all the time, what should your first hire be? Your first hire should be a coach to make sure you make the right first hires, right? Your first hire right now should be a coach to make sure you don't miss out on the opportunity that's going to be available in the next several months because it's big and not everybody's going to get it. All right, send me a message. Let me know your thoughts. Talk to you soon, my friends.